Imagine standing alone against millions of people. Imagine knowing something feels wrong, yet everyone around you accepts it as normal. History has shown us something deeply uncomfortable about human behavior. Most people do not follow truth first, they follow the crowd. Human beings naturally copy the behavior of others because for thousands of years, survival is dependent on belonging to a tribe. Being accepted means protection, food, and safety. Being isolated often means death. Even today, our brains still carry this ancient programming. This is why crowds influence not only our actions but also our beliefs, emotions, opinions, identity, and morality. People often fear isolation more than they fear being wrong. That fear silently shapes society every single day. The question is not whether crowds influence us. The real question is would you have the courage to stand against millions if you knew they were wrong? There is an invisible psychological force guiding human behavior every day. Psychologists call it as social proof. When humans are uncertain, they instinctively look at others to decide what is correct. If many people believe something, we assume it must be true. If many people buy something, we assume it must be valuable. If millions support an idea online, we begin to trust it automatically. Thousands of years ago, this behavior helped humans survive dangerous environments. Following the tribe reduced risk, but in modern society, social proof controls much more than survival. It shapes fashion, politics, religion, trends, financial markets, and even morality itself. Most people believe they think independently, but much of human decision making is unconsciously borrowed from the surrounding crowd. The modern world runs on invisible limitation. One of the deepest human fears is not the failure, it is a rejection. Neuroscientists discovered that social rejection activates the same pain centers in the brain as physical injury. In simple words, exclusion literally hurts. This is why people hide their true opinions in schools, workplaces, families, social circles, and even entire societies. Many people remain silent not because they agree with the crowd, but because they fear becoming isolated from it. Humans are emotionally wired to seek belonging. Sometimes people sacrifice the truth, morality, and individuality just to avoid standing alone. Think about how often people laugh at jokes they dislike, agree with the opinions they secretly reject, or follow the trends they never truly wanted. Society rewards conformity more often than the courage. And over time, people stop asking, is this the right? And start asking, will people accept me? In one of the most famous psychology experiments in history, psychologist Solomon Asch revealed something shocking about the human behavior. Participants were placed in a room with several other people and asked to identify which line matched a reference line. The answer was obvious, but the other people in the room secretly, actors working with the experiment, intentionally gave the wrong answer. Surprisingly, many participants ignored their own eyes and agreed with the group, even when the crowd was clearly wrong. But why? Because social acceptance became more powerful than objective truth. This experiment exposed the terrifying strength of conformity. Humans often doubt themselves when surrounded by confident crowds. Awareness of this psychological weakness is important because the first step towards independent thinking is recognizing how easily the human mind can be socially manipulated. History is not shaped by only by the kings, presidents, or armies. It is shaped by the crowds. Crowds started revolutions, crowds overthrew governments, crowds supported wars, crowds enabled genocides, crowd also fought for the justice, equality, freedom, and reform. Human civilization itself has been built through mass movements of collective emotion. A crowd can become a force of hope for a force of destruction depending on the direction of leadership and emotion. Throughout history, ordinary individuals committed extraordinary acts, both heroic and horrific, simply because the surrounding crowd normalized those actions. When enough people repeat something, society begins treating it as truth. This is why understanding crowd psychology is not merely intellectual curiosity, it is essential for protecting civilization itself. Never before in the human history have crowds moved this fast. Social media has become the most powerful crowd creation machine humanity has ever built. Algorithms amplify emotions because emotional content keeps people engaged longer. Likes, shares, comments, and views create validation loops inside the brain. Trending topics make ideas appear more important simply because many people are discussing them. Social media platforms reward outrage, controversy, fear, and emotional intensity because strong emotions generate attention. Slowly, people begin adopting opinions not because they deeply studied them, but because those opinions dominate their digital environment. Viral trends can educate millions or manipulate millions within the hours. The modern crowd no longer gathers in streets alone, it gathers on the screens. Not all information spreads equally. Emotional information spreads the fastest. Fear spreads rapidly because the human brain evolved to prioritize danger. Anger spreads because outrage creates emotional stimulation. Shock spreads because novelty captures attention instantly. The internet rewards emotionally charged content because emotional reactions increases engagement. matrix. Logic moves slowly, emotion moves instantly. This is why misinformation often spreads faster than the facts. Human beings are emotional creatures before they are logical thinkers. Most people believe they are rational, yet neuroscience repeatedly shows that emotions strongly influence memory, attention, and the decision making. Viral content succeeds because it hijacks emotional psychology. Bandwagon effect is one of the strongest forces in marketing, politics, and the culture. When people see something becoming popular, they assume it must have values. Humans naturally want to join what appears successful, accepted, or socially approved. This is why long lines attract more customers. This is why viral products sell rapidly. And this is why influencers become more influential simply because they already have the followers. Popularity creates perceived credibility, but popularity is not the proof of truth. Entire societies have followed dangerous ideas simply because everyone else believed them. The crowd often mistakes visibility for the freedom. Many people assume only uneducated individuals follow the crowds. Psychology proves otherwise. Intelligence does not remove social pressure. Even highly educated people seek belonging, approval, and emotional safety. Doctors, scientists, executives, professors, and intellectuals are still human beings influenced by social environments. Humans are emotional before logical. Education improves the knowledge, but it doesn't eliminate psychological vulnerabilities. Smart people can rationalize crowd behavior using sophisticated explanations while still being unconsciously influenced by group pressure. True independence requires emotional courage, not just intelligence. One of the greatest dangers inside the organizations is groupthink. This happens when teams become so focused on harmony and agreement that nobody challenges ideas anymore. People stay silent to avoid conflict. Leaders surround themselves with agreement instead of truth. Innovation dies because criticism disappears. Over time, organizations become blind to risks because everyone fears questioning authority. Many corporate failures, political disasters, and historical catastrophes were caused not by lack of intelligence but by the lack of disagreement. Healthy disagreement strengthens teams because truth grows through challenge, not the silence. Humans are naturally drawn towards status. Throughout history, societies admired kings, warriors, actors, influencers, athletes, and celebrities. Fame creates psychological authority. When people admire someone emotionally, they often trust that person's opinions automatically. Celebrity influence shapes fashion, politics, health trends, social values, and public behavior. Millions imitate people they have never met personally. Hero worship becomes dangerous when admiration replaces critical thinking. Influence itself is not the evil, but influence without responsibility can manipulate the entire societies. Humans are social creatures. We need connection, love, identity, and community. Belonging provides emotional safety and psychological stability. This is why communities can become more powerful sources of healing, growth, inspiration, and resilience. Not all crowd following is harmful. Positive communities encourage learning, support mental health, and create meaningful purpose. The goal is not isolation from the society. The goal is conscious awareness within the society. Humans become strongest when they belong without losing their individuality. Propaganda works because repetition shapes perception. When people hear the same message repeatedly, familiarity creates a feeling of truth. Emotional slogans simplify complex problems into emotionally powerful narratives. Fear and repetition reduce critical thinking. Throughout history, propaganda has been used to manipulate populations during wars, politics, and ideological conflicts. The most dangerous propaganda is not always loud. Sometimes it becomes dangerous because it feels normal. Critical thinking protects freedom because independent minds are harder to manipulate. Fear is one of the strongest emotional forces controlling the crowds. When people become afraid, independent thinking decreases. Panic spreads rapidly because humans unconsciously mirror emotional behavior from the others. During uncertainty, people desperately seek direction, authority, and reassurance. This is why fear can become a powerful political, social, and economic tool. Calm leadership becomes essential during chaos because emotionally stable leaders reduce panic and restore rational thinking. Fear spreads crowds, courage stabilizes them. Many people privately disagree with the crowd while publicly pretending to agree. Fear of criticism, cancellation, rejection, humiliation, or social backlash creates the silence. Over time, silence strengthens unhealthy systems because opposition becomes invisible. Entire societies sometimes appear united while millions secretly disagree internally. People avoid conflict to preserve relationships, careers, reputations, and social acceptance. Silence often protects comfort in the short term but weakens the truth in the long term. Every major breakthrough in history began with someone willing to challenge the crowd. Innovators, scientists, reformers, inventors, philosophers, and visionaries all faced resistance before changing the world. Progress begins when someone asks uncomfortable questions society doesn't want to hear. Independent thinkers are often criticized first and celebrated later. Courage changes history because transformation always begins outside conformity. The future belongs to people willing to think beyond social approval. Crowds can psychologically transform individuals. Responsibility feels shared inside the groups, reducing personal accountability. Emotions intensify because humans mirror surrounding energy unconsciously. Anger becomes more aggressive, fear becomes more contagious, violence becomes easier when individuals feel hidden inside a crowd. This is why ordinary people sometimes commit actions in groups they would never commit alone. Self awareness becomes essential because understanding the crowd psychology helps individuals resist destructive collective behavior. Modern marketing deeply understands human psychology. Reviews create trust because humans rely on the social proof. Scarcity creates urgency because people fear missing opportunities. Trends create demand because popularity signals social acceptance. Many purchases are driven emotionally long before they are justified logically. Brands do not sell products, they sell identity, belonging, aspiration, and emotional experience. Consumer behavior often reflects crowd psychology more than independent analysis. Internet often rewards emotional conformity more than thoughtful nuisance. Outrage receives engagement. Echo chambers reinforce existing beliefs by surrounding people with similar opinions. Algorithms prioritize emotionally reactive content because it keeps users online longer. Slowly, individuals become trapped inside digital environments that constantly repeat the same perspectives. Technology did not create herd thinking, it amplified ancient human psychology at unprecedented scale. Internet rewards herd thinking, outrage gets engaged, echo chambers reinforce beliefs, algorithms prefer emotional content, and technology reflects the human behavior. Independent thinking is not the rebellion for the sake of rebellion, it is conscious awareness. Verify information before accepting it emotionally. Listen to opposing viewpoints instead of avoiding them. Separate evidence from the emotion. Ask difficult questions, learn to become comfortable standing alone when necessary. The strongest minds are not those who rejects every crowd automatically. The strongest minds are those who think consciously instead of blindly following the social momentum. There is a major differences between the healthy communities and dangerous herd mentality. Healthy communities encourage learning, growth, creativity, and respectful disagreement. Herd mentality discourages questioning and punishes individuality. Positive groups empower people while still allowing independent thought. Real support systems strengthen confidence instead of demanding blind obedience. Human connection should enhance thinking, not replacing it. Crowd psychology is not always negative. Humanity has united for extraordinary causes throughout history. Charity movements inspire compassion. Education campaigns improve the life. Mental health awareness saves millions from suffering silently. Environmental movements protect the planet. Positive collection and the action proves that humans can use crowd behavior for hope instead of destruction. When awareness, empathy, and leadership combine positively, societies evolve forward. Every day, invisible influence shape your thinking. Friends influence beliefs, families shape identity, media shapes perception, influencers shape trends, algorithms shapes attention, culture shapes values. Most people are influenced without realizing it. Awareness creates freedom because once you recognize influence, you regain the power to think consciously instead of automatically. The question is no longer whether you are influenced, the question is who is influencing you. Crowds are not always wrong. Communities are necessary for human survival and growth. But independent thinking remains essential. Respectful disagreement strengthens society because progress depends on questioning ideas honestly. Conscious awareness protects individuality in a world constantly demanding conformity. The goal is balance, learning from society without becoming psychologically controlled by it. At the end of this journey, one question remains: how many beliefs do you hold simply because society repeated them long enough? If truth stood against a crowd, would you have the courage to stand alone? History remembers independent thinkers because they refused to surrender their minds to social pressure. The future of humanity depends not only on intelligence, technology, or the power, but on conscious awareness. Think deeply, choose wisely, and never allow the crowd to replace your ability to think and for yourself.